Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of the Taking Control of Your Diabetes podcast. I am one of your hosts, Dr. Jeremy Pettis, and I am joined, as always, by my good friend and colleague,
Dr. Steve Edelman.
And if you're just tuning in, Steve and I are both adult endocrinologists at the University of California, San Diego. We both have had type 1 diabetes since we were 15, and now we are working for Taking Control of Your Diabetes, which Steve founded about 30 years ago, to bring you this podcast. And if you're wondering, we do this intro new every time. You know, I'm thinking as I'm doing this, we should record this once, but this is fresh every time. But anyways, we're going to get to our topic today, which is a very important one on low vision, specifically kind of what to do when your vision goes bad. You can't see as well as you want to do or want to see. What can you do to kind of treat that? And we're going to introduce our very special guest soon. But before we do that, Steve, tell us how we came to this topic and namely kind of your personal journey, as much as you want to share with your vision, and then specifically how you saw a low vision specialist.
Well, it started quite a number of years ago when I was in my training back in Boston. And I'd had diabetes 15 years, and I had a vitreous hemorrhage, which is when you have diabetic eye condition that leads to bleeding of the vessels of your retina. And I lost my vision in my left eye almost completely, and eventually it cleared. But then to move forward to where we are today, I did see some really good, impressive ophthalmologists that specialize in the retina, got tons of laser therapy, and this is how they treat people with retinopathy. I had a condition called diabetic macular edema.
And this, when you got laser therapy, that was in the 80s, right?
80s and 90s,
yeah, so
really.
This was kind of a new technology that wasn't like anywhere close to how accurate it is now, things like that, right?
Yeah, and it also, they actually burn the retina, the peripheral of your eye, to save oxygen and nutrients for the vision part of your eye. And as a result, you kind of get messed up on your peripheral vision and your night vision. And then I went into the world of injections of these monoclonal antibodies. A lot of this information is on videos on our website when I went to visit Dr. London, my retinologist. And one day he said to me, "Steve, have you ever considered seeing a low vision optometrist?" And I said, I didn't even know they had one. And I did see a gentleman named Peter Graziano, a student of Richard Shuldiner, who we're going to talk about in a second, introduce. And he came to my office for an appointment. And he comes in with these boxes, these almost like a trolley car of equipment. And I said, "Hey, what's that?" He says, "That's my equipment." I said, I could have come to your office. And then he kind of looked at me straight in the eye and said, "Steve, most of my patients can't drive." And then it dawned on me what one of the issues of low vision. And he examined me, gave me 3 different prescriptions about 3 years ago. And I just got a new set of regular distance, office, and computer glasses with pretty strong bifocals. And Richard will get into this, but he also showed me some interesting future technology for people when they really lose their vision, almost like those little tiny magnifying glasses that stick on your eye, your eyeglasses, like surgeons that have to do microsurgery. So it's been an eye-opening experience for me. We have an article in our newsletter with Peter. And then, of course, he said, why don't you speak to Richard? He's one of the gurus. He's taught most of the low vision optometrists. And I think without further ado, we should introduce Richard. Go for it, Jeremy.
Yeah, well, let me just say real quick, too, that is just such helpful background. I mean, first of all, what a dreaded complication, right? People, when they're diagnosed with diabetes, are always told, you know, you don't take care of yourself, you're going to go blind, you lose your vision. And the journey you've had on kind of the medical side of it, but here you are, a specialist in diabetes and endocrinologist, and didn't even know that this low vision kind of area existed. And would you say it's helped you?
It's helped me tremendously.
Yeah. And you've told me that many times. So you're right. Without further ado, we want to introduce Dr. Richard Schuldiner, who is a giant in the field of low vision, has been helping people with low vision for numerous decades, and also founder of the Schuldiner Low Vision Training Institute, trained over 100 optometrists in providing low vision care to their parents, their patients. And he is an author of the book, quote, "What Do You Mean New Glasses Won't Help?" which I want to hear about that as well. Mm-hmm. So, Richard, thanks so much for joining us, and say hi to the folks.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm very pleased to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. So we just wanted to kind of, jump into it. So maybe real quick, like, how did you get into this field?
Well, I got into this field because I wanted to really specialize in something, and happened to go to a lecture that was given by the Commission for the Visually Impaired back in New York when I was there, and it seemed very interesting and definitely a needed service. There are very, very few low vision optometrists in the world, and there's very little knowledge that low vision optometrists even exist.
So with that in mind,
trying to do something about that.
What is low vision? Does that have a definition? What does that mean?
It does have a definition. It starts with vision which is fully corrected. So that's the first thing people have to understand. Fully corrected means with glasses, with contact lenses, or surgery, whatever, but just fully corrected vision, which is still insufficient to do what you want to do. So definition has two variables. One is how much vision does the patient have right now? And two is, what do you want to be able to do that you can't do? And my job is to find a way to get people to do the things they want to be able to do.
Yeah. And so how do people typically come to you? Is diabetes a big part of, what you're doing, what you're helping people with? Or
diabetes, yes. Mm-hmm. Macular degeneration, albinism, anything. To a low vision optometrist, the diagnosis is not all that critical. What's critical is how much vision do you have regardless of what the condition is? And what do you want to be able to do with it? Yeah, so people want to drive, they want to read, they want to watch television, they want to see faces, they want to see their children play sports, things like that.
You know what? I can just tell you that when Peter interviewed me, he did ask me those questions. And, I do a lot of lectures. I have a hard time seeing the PowerPoint slides, depending on how they show it up and on the screen and my computer. And also, obviously, I'd like to drive. I don't want to see my ex-wife, but I don't know how you can do that. But other than that, you know what? I like to do the things that probably most people do. What are some of the common requests people tell you when you ask them, what do they want to be able to do?
Good question. The low vision optometrist thinks in terms of distances. So we ask people about near distances, and most people want to be able to read. If not read books, they at least want to read their mail. They want to read their checkbook and write a check and be able to pay their bills. That's critical for independence to be able to do that. They want to set the oven dial. They want to be able to cook and know that the food they're eating is correct. So that's the near things. And then there are kind of intermediate type distances, like seeing the computer, which is arm's length, or seeing the TV, or people's faces when they're sitting in a room. You want to be able to see the expressions on people's faces. And then people want to see a distance. So a lot of people need to continue driving, and there are telescope glasses that allow people to see street signs and road signs and traffic lights and emergencies. The sooner you can pick up information when you're driving and make a decision about what has to be done, the safer you are. I have, fortunately, 20/20 vision. I'm fine, and yet I made myself a pair of these telescopes because I go to baseball and football games and I want to zoom in and be able to see a play. So they're very useful for anything at a distance.
So then, regardless of diagnosis, when people do come to you, was Steve's situation unique that somebody came to him, or is that a big part of what you do? Do you do home visits, or do people get referred from optometrists? I imagine, and maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, by the time somebody sees you, they're probably like, thank God I could have used you years ago and nobody told me that this was a service I didn't know about this.
That is the number one question that I've gotten from people for the last 50 years that I've been doing this. Why didn't somebody tell me about this sooner? Why didn't my doctor tell me about this? And I really don't have an answer. The whole eye care profession is so fixated on prevention of vision loss. And I understand that. Of course, we want to prevent vision loss. But when there is vision loss, what do you do? And unfortunately, the schools of optometry don't spend very much time dealing with that.
You know, Richard, if you think about it, there's a lot of discounted eyeglass places out there, and you know them all. And for them, they think they could give you a pair of glasses that'll be perfectly fine. And I've never been, no one's ever suggested to me when I've gotten glasses anywhere that there are low vision optometrists. And I've told these folks that I've had laser, because I have a hard time doing the eye exam, that I've had retinopathy in the past and macular edema. So I don't know. Maybe they're worried about losing business. Maybe you guys need some PR, social media help. I had a question for you.
Yeah.
When you examine someone's eyes with the equipment that you have, what's different compared to just going to Costco and having the local optometrist examine your eyes?
All right,
and
first of all,
nothing against Costco.
Yeah,
So-
I don't do a medical exam because the patients that I'm seeing have already been through many ophthalmologists and retina specialists, and they've had enough medical. They know what's wrong with the eyes. Now my deal here really is to get them to do what they want to do. So I need to know how much vision they have. So I have to use special eye charts, because if you remember, when you go into a normal eye doctor's office, they put this big E up there. And then the next letter is about half the size of that, and the next letter is half the size of that. Well, it just doesn't filter the amount of vision that people have. Why that's important is in being able to renew driver's license. So let's talk about California for a minute, which is where I am and where you are. In the state of California, what's the vision requirement? What's the minimum amount of vision that you have to have in order to pass their vision requirements? And I would bet that most doctors don't know.
I don't know.
Well, I don't either.
Well, the answer is one eye has to be better than 20/200.
Oh, wow.
Because driving is really a peripheral vision task, not a central vision task. You need central vision to see the traffic lights and street signs and emergencies. But basically, if you want to drive safely, you need peripheral vision. Well, the eye charts that are used in eye doctors' offices have a 200E and then a 100 letter. What happens if somebody has 20/150?
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, they have to end up being 2200 in a regular eye doctor's office, and therefore they can't renew their driver's license. So I have to use charts that really give me specific, exact level of acuity. That's the first thing I need to know. The second thing I need to know is, well, what do you want to be able to do? Which means task analysis. So I'll tell you a little bit of a story, which I think is really interesting. I was sitting at an Indian casino playing Texas Hold'em, sitting next to this woman, and she wasn't betting as quickly as other people at the table wanted her to. And somebody said something, and she said, "I'm sorry, I have macular degeneration. It takes me a little while." So I ended up seeing her. Now, task analysis, when you're sitting at a Texas Hold'em table, if you've ever done that, every seat has a different distance to the cards on the table. How are we going to figure out a way for her to see at the various distances? So you have to analyze the task plus the cards in her hand. I had a gentleman come in and he wanted to read the smallest print I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it's if you ever looked at like a Splenda package or a sugar package, the writing on the back is so ridiculously small. So we have to do a task analysis, lighting, contrast, size of print, and how much magnification. How much bigger do I have to make it look to that person so they can see it? So that's basically what a low vision exam is all about.
Richard, this is probably important for some of our listeners, but I could see very well enough to drive, but I'm not that great on font. So that's why, having Google Maps is helpful. I can't read the small stop signs, but he gave me a letter. My retinologist, my ophthalmologist gave me a letter to take it to the DMV that allowed me to not take the eye chart at the office. And I just gave him this letter. It substituted for taking that test. I know you know what I'm talking about. Maybe you can explain that a little better. But that's
in
not
California,
a bad in California.
Yeah, it's a vision report form. It's a DL62. And I have them constantly in stock because I've filled out hundreds of them. And basically, they're asking me what the vision is. And so that's what I do. I fill that form out, and it takes the place of the vision report, the vision test at DMV. Now, there are 50 jurisdictions in Washington, D.C. There's 51 jurisdictions, and every single state has different vision requirements for driving. And the reason for that is because there's absolutely not one study anywhere that details how much vision a person has to have in order to be a safe driver. We just don't know. So really, all of the vision requirements are pretty much made up. But you have to have something. One eye has to be better than 20/200, the better eye. So every state is different. And we have an organization, the International Academy of Low Vision Specialists. And on that website, we have the vision rules of every state so that people can view that and see whether or not they're allowed to use bioptic telescope lenses. Those are glasses with little telescopes, little binoculars built in. They're set very high on a pair of glasses so they're not in your way when you're driving, but you tip your head down and look through the telescope to see what you want to see ahead. So every state is different. Yes, California, you do not have to take their vision test. A lot of people complain that they're concerned that they're not going to be able to read the written test in California. And people don't know that you can make an appointment and they'll read it to you. You don't have to be literate in order to be able to get a driver's license.
Sounds like you can be blind and get a driver's license too. Well, 2200, isn't that legally blind?
Well, if you're at 2200 and not 1 ounce better, you are legally blind, yes, which is not the same as totally blind, completely different. And no, you cannot have a driver's license.
So if you're 199, you're good.
Well, let's go a little bit further in this. You're good in terms of passing the vision requirements. It doesn't mean you're getting a license. In order to get a license in California, pretty much anywhere, you have to pass the knowledge test, the written test. You have to pass the vision requirements of that state. And you have to get in the car and show them you can be a safe driver. So just because, and I tell this all the time to patients, I am not giving you a license to drive. I'm just telling DMV you pass the vision requirements. You still have to get in the car and show them you can be a safe driver. And by the way, if you're not a safe driver, or you have family members that are concerned that you're not a safe driver, there are driving rehabilitation professionals that I will refer you to, and they can analyze your driving skills before you go down to DMV. And if they don't think you're safe, don't drive. So at least we have a means of doing that. But just giving you the DL62 doesn't mean you get a license.
Right, but Richard, some people just get renewals. They don't have to do the driving test and the knowledge test every time. So when I went to renew mine, I just needed the form.
Yeah, I took my driving license when I was 16, but I haven't had to do it again. Have you, Steve?
No, but I think you should take that special driver's course. I've been with you.
You should. But Steve has a Tesla. Does that matter?
Yeah.
It helps him out a lot.
It does. Auto driving, Richard, it's safe.
Well, Steve, maybe you
can
tell people a little bit more about your experience. I don't know, like maybe describing a little bit what low vision means for you and what, some of these different glasses, et cetera, that they gave you that have been helpful.
Yeah, I think, the way you described it, Richard, the 3 arm's length, a little bit further, computer, office, and distance. And What that helps me do is that I can actually, we do filming here at Taking Control of Your Diabetes and a lot of our stuff online. It helps me see the teleprompter. And Eric, who's our master of a lot of things, but he also controls how fast the font is moving and how big it is, and if it's a black background or a white. I use Sharpies, as you know, Jeremy, to do all my writing because it's just easier to see a Sharpie. I never even knew why I did that. And Peter, the low vision optometrist who helped me, said that's pretty classic. And I'll tell you what, with driving, I still can't see small font on a big sign, but I have no problems seeing cars and trucks and, big signs, and it helps me. And even with the Tesla, you got to do a lot of push button, which I think is not the best for low vision people, to be honest, because you're taking your eyes off the road to find every little thing on your touchscreen. But it has helped me do things safely. And lastly, I'll say,
but I mean, he gave you different sets of glasses for these different things. I mean, what did he actually provide you with?
Yes, 3 sets of prescriptions.
And that's because low vision devices, glasses, are task specific. We have to build them specifically for the task that you're going to be doing. So most low vision patients end up with 2 or 3 or 4 different devices. So you might have a pair of reading glasses which focus very, very close to read. But if you go into a restaurant and you want to read the menu, you don't want to put those glasses on. You might have a handheld magnifier with a light so that you can read the menu. Or if you go into a grocery store and you want to see the prices and you want to see the labels of the cans, you don't want to put the glasses on and then take them off and on and off. So you use a hand magnifier. And now I'm starting to recommend electronic hand magnifiers. Actually you can put that on your iPhone. There are magnifying apps on your iPhone. Mm-hmm. And what's great about those is they're variable. So if you want to read the ingredients on the can, they're a lot smaller than what it says can of corn. And you can vary it with the electronic magnifier to give yourself a little more magnification. Works very nicely.
Yeah, and when I was examined by Peter, we sat, he said, how far do you sit from your computer? And so I sat in front of my computer, and so he designed the prescription to fit that. But you know what? I do have, 3 sets of glasses, and because I'm in different places a lot, so I got 2 sets of computer, 2 sets of office glasses, and so I have so many different glasses, and I've learned it's important to recycle the old ones, but it can be costly. And he did mention to me the magnifying lenses, and I'm sorry, the magnifying glass, and I do have one everywhere I go, and it's helpful. And I remember many years ago, one of my senior physicians, Jeremy knows Dr. Olefsky, the chief of our division, he said to me, Steve, why are you leaning over while you're giving a lecture on the podium? Because I just couldn't see it very well. And so he noticed that, and I still remember that to this day. And so anyway, you know what? I've been able to be functional, and I'm very thankful to that. And that's one reason why we want to do this podcast, to let folks know that, you have lots of good ideas. I've learned a couple things on this show already, certainly about the electronic magnifying glass and the little telescope lens that you could get and stick on the top of your glasses.
Are there other things like that, Richard, that you're constantly recommending? I mean, obviously glasses comes to mind. Magnifying glass is great. Any other little tricks you have in your bag that you're kind of constantly pulling out for people?
Well, I specialize mostly in optics. Most people want a pair of glasses if they can have it. So at a distance, the telescope in the glasses works great. Then there are larger telescope glasses for seeing TV because you need a bigger field of view. And then there are things like large print playing cards. People who want to play bridge or want to play cards, solitaire. You can even get keyboards that have large print on them, so you can see a keyboard for your computer. So I've recommended those. Lighting is very, very important. The retinas, just for most patients, especially with diabetic retinopathy, those retinal cells need light. And so I recommend gooseneck lamps, because then you can bring the lamp closer. The closer you bring a lamp to what you're looking at, the brighter that image gets. So we've done that. For people whose vision gets really, really poor, we start to use electronic devices because you can get a lot more magnification with what we call a closed circuit TV. Basically, you're looking at a TV screen with a camera, and you put your material under it, and it shows up on the screen. With the turn of a knob, you can magnify it 2 times, 4 times, 12 times, even up to 60 times if necessary. So, and then there are devices that are for non-visual people. So there's a company that makes something called Orcam. It's a little computer that goes on the temple of glasses, but it has nothing to do with vision. But you can program in people's faces. And so when somebody shows up in front of you, it'll tell you who it is. So it'll tell you denominations of dollar bills or $10 bills. So there's a lot of things we can do for people regardless of the level of vision. The key is the motivation.
So, and then how often do significant others come into these visits with the patient?
We always want them there. We always want them there. People come in with expectations that are unrealistic. They're thinking that one pair of glasses is going to get them to do everything they want to do, or we're going to get them back to normal. So we're constantly managing the expectation of the patient. It's never going to be as good as they wish it could be. And so the more memory that's in the room, the more people that are in the room that are people who are interested in making sure that patient is doing well, the better. So I want them in there. And by the way, to answer a question that you asked before, Peter's a little different in that he makes home visits. Most of the doctors don't. And most of the doctors that I've trained in our group have branch offices. So at this point, I have 3 branch offices throughout Southern California. There was the time I had 8. It's easier for me to travel to an area than for patients to travel.
So with that in mind, I mean, I'm sure there's people listening that are thinking, I really need this service. How difficult is it to come find somebody like you across the U.S.?
If they can get on Google and go to lowvisioninformation.com, the doctors I've trained, all 50 doctors are on there. Or just Google low vision. The problem is that a lot of optometrists say they do low vision, but they don't. So the patient has to be educated enough to ask the right questions. Can you fit telescope glasses? Can you fit high-powered glasses? Have you worked with people who have visual impairments? You've got to do your homework.
And if somebody can come to see you and do these different services, these different glasses, et cetera, are these things that are typically covered, Medicare, insurance, or is this like a out-of-pocket cost?
No, Medicare does not cover low vision or low vision glasses, just like they don't cover hearing aids. So there is a cost to it. For people who have financial issues, they would be better off looking for a college of optometry that has a low vision clinic. There are agencies out there that do have low vision services. For example, in New York, there's the Lighthouse Guild for the Blind. There's a Chicago Lighthouse. There are agencies that people can go to get care.
Yeah, I can let the listeners know that the charge Peter charged me was $200, and once every 3 years isn't too bad. And then I got my glasses at Costco, and by the way, I forgot to mention I did have to get 2 pairs of sunglasses too, with the same distance prescription. So I carry so many glasses with me, and this is really a good practical tip as we get close to the end. Get the glass holders that are white on the inside that you can write your name and your phone number, because if you leave them and you have no identification, they're gone. I mean, it's a small tip, but it'll save you getting a new pair of glasses.
That's something you've been doing for a long time. Steve has his name written in Sharpie and his cell phone on pretty much everything. It's not just your glasses, it's your pants, your shirts, everything.
No, I appreciate you mentioning fees, but some of the low vision glasses do get to be pricey. So people need to know that telescope glasses for driving can be anywhere between $3,000 and $4,000.
Oh, wow.
Sometimes I've had patients spend $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 on a number of pairs of glasses. On the one hand, that sounds like a lot of money. On the other hand, if it gives you the independence to live your life and most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, they will last a very long time. And if prescriptions change, we can change the prescriptions on these relatively easily and inexpensively. So it doesn't mean they have to spend that amount of money every single time they need a new pair of glasses.
I mean, this is your sight, and then you add your hearing in, and those good hearing aids aren't inexpensive either. But those are two important senses that you don't want to lose. And you're right, it's total independence. So, and hopefully there are ways to get some financial support depending on your individual needs.
And the sooner people come in with a vision loss, the better. I've had patients come in who want to read, and I can magnify the print so they can start reading, and yet you hear that they have trouble reading. And my question to them is, well, when was the last time you actually did any reading? Well, 2 years ago. Well, anything you learn can be unlearned, as you know that. So if you don't read for 2 years, your brain kind of forgets how to read.
Oh, wow.
And
has any patient ever said to you, I don't know how to read, but they want to read?
No, we haven't had that.
All right.
Yeah. Well, I think with that, I mean, we could talk about this for hours. I mean, I've learned a ton from this podcast because it is such, kind of a hidden gem that really people need to know about. So, Richard, thank you so much for coming on to our podcast. And is there anything you want to leave patients with? Any words of wisdom or references to send people to?
Well, the website, Low Vision Information, will certainly help people. Google low vision or low vision doctors will help people. And the sooner they keep seeing, the better. So if you find that you're cutting back on reading, get to a low vision doctor, because it's a real problem the longer you go.
All right.
That's good information. Richard, thank you so much. And one of these days, we'll have you drive down in our studio, and we'll do some type of filming with the same sort of information.
Yeah,
I'd love to do it. I have all sorts of things that I can show you, but obviously not on this podcast.
Yeah. Well, thanks again. Thanks for our listeners for listening, and be sure to like, follow, subscribe, do all those fun social media things, and we will talk to you on the next one. So long.
See you, Richard.
Thank you very much.